And it's 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which Jay wouldn't know about right now.
That's
And
very
welcome to the Metal Lab, guys. It's actually 9:33. We're running a little late because these guys wouldn't shut up before the show started. But I am joined this week by Tom.
Hello, everyone.
Mike.
Stop!
And Jay.
I'm tired.
And we are brought to you in part by HCRealms.com, the one-stop source for all the Heroclix conversation and all your Heroclix needs when it comes to information. Check out the units section for your comprehensive guide to finding figures, building teams, and just tracking your collection in general. Use the forums to find out what's going on in the Heroclix world. And while you're there, also check out the rock section to find out the major rock events, ROC events that are going to be in your area. That helps you keep in touch, keep track of what's coming up. And, you know, if you happen to be there, interested in shopping around, click that shop tab and get some cool Heroclix gear. And while you're checking it out, put in the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off of your purchase. Because believe it or not, the Metal Lab is part of Married with Clicks. We're also brought to you in part by MajesticCCG.com, the first in line with the rock results, and also the home of a lot of articles written by some of the Heroclix greats and not so greats and interesting people. Myself included. I'm honestly working on an article that I keep putting off and putting off and putting off. And I swear I'm going to write it soon. And Patrick is probably about to start yelling at me because he watches the show live and he's going to start pinging me on Facebook like, "Hey, where's my article?" Probably doesn't mention anything. But if you haven't caught it yet, also catch Tom's recap of the Rock Canada Cup. And Jay's regular articles on fringe characters you don't usually play with. Recently, he wrote an article on the Elongated Man, and it was quite an interesting read. But with all that said and done, how have you guys had for a weekend? I had a Clixless weekend for the most part, other than filming my figure-by-figure constructed review of Superior Foes. So, Tom, what did you do this weekend, Clix related?
Not much. I was in a Civil War event this last week, and I had some fun with that. That's about all I can say about it, was that I had some fun with it. But Civil War is still a bit of a hard sell for me. I like showing up because it's fun to show up and play Heroclix with people, but I would say that this is not my favorite of the event series. And other than that, it's been today was actually the best part of it, because I got a chance to hang out with Mike and practice a bit and play around with some teams that we've been talking about. And it's been a few weeks since we've been able to pull that off, so that was cool, like that.
So oddly enough, Monday became your best Clicks day.
Yeah, fascinating.
All right, Mike, how about you?
Other than having an identical evening to that of Tom, this weekend, what did I get up to? Nothing really Clicks related, although last Wednesday we had our month 3 in Civil War, which is everyone's favorite OP series. I happened to win that event, which was kind of cool. Which has not been the norm for this event series for me anyway. But yeah, they really need to not make the next one so bad, because it's bad. Yeah. Other than that, haven't really had much time to play Clicks over the last week. I've started a new business, so yeah, it's all gangbusters from here. Although I've been designing several things for HC Realms and the Rock people, which is pretty cool, and it's always an honor to be asked to do stuff like that.
All right, and Jay, how was your weekend?
Didn't get up to much of Clicks this weekend.
All right.
Nothing exciting to report.
Really?
Yeah, we'll find out later about more from Jay about that. Also, another piece of news from the weekend that I forgot to share is that myself and Amber have been asked to write an article series for HC Realms regarding the tournaments and the events that they're running at the Rock Cup in Atlanta. So Amber is actually in the midst of writing up her first article for that, and we're really looking forward to getting those out to everybody, so that Amber's gonna be doing a lot of the social media coverage for the event, and getting her voice out there already, and getting people used to her and trusting her writing these things is really part of the goal here. So we're really excited to get that going, and the first one is going to be on the rock and roll event. So it's going to be a quick description of that and how it's going to plan on going down. But let's get to news. And as far as previews are concerned, there's not much in the way of previews. They have announced that the Joker's Wild pre-release is on. until further notice. So
Mm-hmm.
all things considered, we're really excited about that. I believe the events are allowed to run until the end of October, or October 27th, I think was the cutoff.
Can't remember offhand.
Yeah, because I believe the next day, the day before release, is always when they run these things. Like they allow you to run the pre-release events. So, and of course, it's going to be nice to have that pre-release back in the rotation of things after the unfortunate accident that led to the cancellation of the Superior Foes of Spider-Man one. But and further WizKids news about tournaments, we have got the first announcement of WKO's coming back.
Hey!
Hey!
There's actually going to be a seasonal thing, as we found out from other sources. So they're already talking about the fall ones, which will be occurring on November 5th, and probably several other dates in and around that area. And of course, these events are Heroclix and Dice Masters. They are WizKids Opens. I noticed that Attack Wing is no longer there. So, of course, they got your tournament resources and, a quick explanation of your regional championships. Entry fee is $15. It is, oh my gosh, 300 points, Modern Age, constructed this time.
Wow.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. And, of course, this Swiss rounds elimination cut to top 8. Top 8 prizing is going to be very similar. So if you're in the top 8, you get all of these ID cards, which is all of this year's 2016 ID cards. Constantine Swamp Thing, Captain Cold, Lex Luthor, Dr. Fate, Plastic Man, and Phantom Stranger. As well, if you're in the top 4, you get all of those, plus the Punisher fan, Aerocycle, and the Batman with the Bomb con exclusive. If you're in the top 2, you get all of that, what I mentioned already, plus a Man Spider, Rocket Raccoon Groot, Cosmic Daredevil, Hawkman, Casey Red Robin, Ace the Bat Hound, Shredder, and Casey Jones con exclusives. And if you win the whole thing, you get all of that plus a Marvel Heroclix Superior Foes of Spider-Man Chase and Prime set. As well, for every 8 players entered into the event, rounded up, 1 player earns a 2016-2017 Heroclix National Championship qualification. If a player is already qualified for 2016-2017 Heroclix National Championship, the country in which WizKids is being opened, their qualification passes down to the next highest ranked player who does not already have a qualification for that country's 2016-2017 National Championships. Whew. So it looks like they're correcting a few things that people went oops for at the Canadian national level. Which is super exciting. I don't think any of us are pre-qualified for Canadian Nationals this year, are we? I think it's only the winner is pre-qualified prior to the WizKids Opens. So
yeah,
that would be Kenji for Canadian Nationals. As well, and there's going to be Dice Masters events, but I don't care this year because as soon as I left Dice Masters behind this time around, I've gotten a little better Heroclix, I find. But there will be Heroclix Battle Royales at this event. $15 gets you a pack of Superior Foes of Spider-Man. And of course, there's no point limit, 3-action limit. And it'll be the prize structure of you'll get one of the random LEs in the prize pool along with 3 convention ID cards, and you snake draft based in order. And then we have a couple of we've already got the locations of events. Local or close to us, and I hope these all don't fall on the same weekend. We might be able to get around. Eternal Games in Michigan, Millennium Games in Rochester, but also in the Great White North in Ontario, we have Carta Magica in Ottawa, in addition to which, cross-country, Eastridge Hobbies in Alberta. So now this is just the fall events. We've heard from a few venues that have run them in prior events that winter will hold more venues than just these fall ones. Those will, who knows, probably be sealed as well. Super excited about that myself. What do you think, Tom?
Very excited. Very excited for it being constructed. And just generally, I'm excited for more tournaments. It's one of these things where right now there's a certain amount of we're still very much in tournament season, and it will be easy to get a certain sense of tournament fatigue. But just as soon as you think the end is in sight, then more stuff shows up, and frankly, that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned, because it takes the pressure more off of having to make it to any one thing. Just make it to as much as we can and have a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Yep. Tom, Mike?
Well, I'm really looking forward to the 2 that I know that are going to be in Canada and fairly local. I know that the Carta Magica one is going to be on November 5th. That's been confirmed at this point. I spoke to the owner earlier today. And one of our contacts at CBA has said that they have been given the nod for winter as well. So we'll have a couple that don't require us to cross the border or cross province lines. So that's going to be really exciting and really fun. In fact, CBA's last one was absolutely incredible. This is one of the best Clicks experiences I've ever had. I think we had 63 players there. It's great.
Yep. Jay?
I am looking forward to any WizKids official event that has a constructed element, so that's good.
Yeah, so it's exciting to see the constructed portion as well. I mean, this means that there's, if you look at the conglomeration and the way it's all spread out, there is no pause in tournament season anymore, guys. Between the way the Rock is running, between the way WizKids is running it now, there's no room for a stop, which is the best news ever.
There's no downtime whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're a Magic the Gathering player, there is no such thing as downtime. It's when's the next tournament? When's the next tournament? Every weekend there's a tournament. Heck, every weekend almost there's a Grand Prix, which is huge in the sense of Magic. So, I mean, when we get to that level in Heroclix, at least once every month there's something big. I'm getting really super excited, and that just gets me going. And that means now that I get a little less peeved when a big event is sealed, because there's going to be a constructed one around the corner somewhere, and I'm okay with that, right? As long as I'm able to diversify my skills and make attempts of at everything. So an energy drink probably wasn't something to take that news in with.
Oh, what's this? Oh, no, everybody. All right.
Yeah, I know, eh? Yeah, so, when we talk about energy drink sponsors, if you happen to be working for an energy drink company and, do those kinds of things, I'm not too picky. All right. But without further ado, something happened this weekend along the lines of the Rock Canada Cup, except instead of Canada, it was the U.S. And this past weekend was the Rock U.S. Cup in Las Vegas. Store being run was We Play Games West, spelled W-I-I. Do they have a lot of Wii's or Wii's in there? I don't know. Maybe
There's
Jay
at least
will...
two of those. There's an East and West, I believe.
Yeah.
Which was funny because a lot of people ended up booking their hotels close to the wrong one or driving to the... Yeah, it was bad.
Oh, there's two venues with the same name and on opposite sides.
The differentiation is East and West, yeah.
Oh, so this is We Play Games West. Okay. But that said, there was 24 players in attendance, one of which happened to be named Jay. Jay,
What a coincidence.
give us the tale of the tape, as it were, of the Rock Canada Cup, and hopefully your camera will find its way back into working order while you're telling the story.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Not really kidding.
So you want the whole thing now? You don't want to go over all the top 8 first?
Well, I want to hear your story before we go over the top 8.
Oh.
Because we're here to hear you talk.
Okay, this is going to be long, so I guess you guys can interject if you see fit.
Hold on.
I'm not talking for an hour straight.
Hold on.
Myself. Where do I start? My camera back.
Yeah, your camera's back. Keep going.
Okay. Oh, I forgot my hat, and I got a new pin. Oh well. My rock hat now has a top 8 pin. It looks cool. So we start off. My flight was Wednesday night. Get in. Nothing of note happened. I went to a Civil War on Thursday. It was good. At another store, Maximum Comics. It was fun. I met Dustin Hall there, and he works there or something, I believe. Oh yeah, where's my top 8 pin from here, Mike?
We didn't have any.
We didn't get them.
Oh.
Keep going, Jay. What are you
Let's
story,
go.
man?
Then Friday, I met up with Aaron Cantu, friend of ours, helped me build the team in question. And we went to an event they were running, $5 entry for potentially getting free entry to the next day, which costed $30, so it seemed worth it. And worst case scenario, you get some more practice in because something about practicing is a good thing. I don't know. So then we went there. Last minute, I had to change my team slightly because he didn't have everything on the team, but I basically played the same team. Round one of that tournament was against Roland from Team Vegas, who was running not the same team as in Constructed. He had 3 shifting focus Supermans, Atomica, and a Batman ID card for the Trinity War version at 85 points. So that game, I won map roll with my +5, which was good, and put us on the map that was my go-to for this team, which is Day in the Street, which is slightly annoying for his team because it makes it difficult for the defense Superman that are kind of the focus of the team with their walking. And in general, in addition to the map roll that you had to do, the dice were just not kind to him in general, so it ended up being a victory for me, although I believe that one went to time, just because it took a while between the very high defenses, but I managed to do some force blasting with the Red Tornado to get one of the Supermen out of the formation and then take him out. So that was game 1. Game 2 was against the guy that ended up placing second at the event, also with the team that he didn't end up running, which was Carlos, and he was running Casey Shazam with, I believe it was Eclipso, Felix Faust, now that he was recently unbanned from the Rock, and Pandora's Box with Envy and, I believe, Wrath. So that game ended up going in my favor after... It was difficult to catch up to the Shazam because of his ridiculous speed and sidestep, but I managed to get his Faust and then get him to a point where I was able to make an attack after he was pushed, and then ended up finishing the game with a big blast from Nick Fury, as one does. And then the third game was against... What was the guy's name? I can't remember the guy's name. Who was running... Nice guy, though. He was running a Nighthawk Prime with Proteus, a Atomica, and a Nick Fury with Brainiac. His resource was a box as well with a Sloth, I think a Lust, and another one maybe. And the Sloth went on Nighthawk to do healing to counteract the Proteus damage, and that game ended up being also on Day in the Street. I was able to put myself in a position on the map where I had some blocking to get some cover, and then a bit of a back and forth, leading to a big, amazing Adam Colossal retaliation attack that, after a bunch of probs, turned into a crit hit, which ended up killing Atomica and Nick in one big attack, and then I just had to follow up and finish off the Nighthawk. Unfortunately, both of us forgot about the Proteus, and I only realized like a couple minutes after the game was over, but realistically at that point, the game was mine, so it didn't matter so much, but that was an unfortunate mistake. So I ended up placing second in that tournament, winning some store credit, being 20 or 30 points behind Aaron, who also went 3-0. So that was good to get a feel of the team, because my current version of the team has been slightly changed since last I played it with the new Thug and some different ID card shifts. So that was a good Friday night pre-big tournament practice. Any comments so far?
No, keep going, man.
Sounds
Okay.
good to me.
It sounds like you had a lot of fun, man.
Yeah,
It was some fun to get some, not as much pressure, but still being able to get some good games in.
And just to clarify for anyone who's listening, that Aaron you mentioned would be Aaron Cantu of 2 Clicks of KO.
Yeah.
Check down below for a link to the show. We still keep it in the comments, or the doobly-doo as it's called sometimes.
Won't be the last time. Won't be the last time that we hear of a notable Heroclix podcaster at this tournament. In fact.
Oh.
Ooh. Tantalizing spoiler.
Spoiler alert.
I heard that Fruz he looks old, but really he's just the Benjamin Button of the Heroclix world.
I'm sure he gets younger every time I see him.
Yeah.
Go on, Jay.
So
Take us to day
that
2.
was Friday night. I got home, did my team sheet because that was a whole... The team sheet's a nightmare, so I did that in advance. Then I went to sleep at a reasonable time. Then I got up at 6:30 a.m. the next morning local time. Because to be able to get a good breakfast and everything, get to the venue, needed all the extra time. So started off tired, but by the time 10 o'clock or whatever it was came around, I was okay. And when I got there, I was given my Majestics gift bag, which they gave out to people that pre-registered up to a certain cap that I don't think we even hit, but got some ATAs and some cool stuff there. So that was nice to start off with. Then... I guess should I go over my team now or just wait for after?
You can go over it now.
Yeah,
It'll
you can go for it.
contextualize the conversation.
Yeah.
a little bit.
So I've been
Before
continuing.
you get started, we are going to be going over some of the teams from the top 8 on the Majestic site. They have the top 8 listed there. So, Jay, go in great detail about your team, which we'll see again in third place, and kind of briefly talk about when we get back there. And then
spoiler
we'll spoiler alert. And then we'll get into the later parts of it.
Okay, so I am still running with my Avengers Quinjet team that I've been working on, tinkering, whatever, since before Canadian Nationals. So we start off with the Quinjet at 140, of course, the resource, of course. Then the Fast Forces Captain America at 50 points from the original Avengers Fast Forces. That's the one that has the damage shroud that lets him give friendly characters the Cherokee move actions, which is very important. With the Quinjet. We have Jarvis because he does Jarvis things with ID cards, and he's great. And I guess the running theme with this team is that the support pieces, while they're not all drawn drones, are pieces with very significantly decent defenses for the points, in which, when combined with the 18 defend, makes them quite the task to deal with, like the Captain America's combat reflexes and Jarvis's special cool Avengers defense power. And then we have the Red Wing from the Civil War movie, who is just a great little robot who has sidestep, can theme prob, has Avengers Initiative so he can stealth bust to get out from the Quinjet, and has a special power that lets him decrease defense values if he really wants to. But most importantly, the sidestep for repositioning for potentially even ID cards if I choose to have it call on the Atom if I want to, or just theme prob in general is quite good. And then the most recent addition to the team has been the Thug from the Superior Foes set, who has apparently joined the Avengers, and is literally only there to be a body. In most of my games, I learned at a certain point that it was just better off to just keep him in the corner of the map to not get killed, even though he has decent stats, but he can kind of be a liability, depending on if my opponent wants to try and take him out. So those are the characters, which leaves me with the... Because the Quinjet and Jarvis count as 3 characters each for ID card purposes, I have my full possibility of 9 because of sideline rules. So we have the Atom for the Colossal. We have Iron Man with a borrowed super rare version from Nick Fury, thanks to Tom. Thank you, Tom.
No problem.
To do the Patrick Pilot trick. We have a level 7 for Peggy. We have a level 7 for Nick Fury. We have Nightwing's ID card for the OP one. Black Canary for the only legal one. Green Arrow for Trinity War, Gravity Feed, Red Tornado for the uncommon from Superman Wonder Woman with the Force Blast, and we follow it off with the Batman. Trinity War at 85 points every time. I don't think I ever put him at higher points because my team tends to just go for the consistency of the ID card call-ins rather than building up to something higher, like a Hulk version or a King Thor version might. So then, that was the team I was playing that day, placed third with. So round 1 was, I believe, against Dustin Hall, who's on Team Vegas, was previously mentioned. He was running the convention-exclusive Doctor Strange. I know it was this one and not the other one because I was there. Convention-exclusive with Eclipso, and Spider-Man Noir with Brainiac, and also the Midnight Suns ATA on Doctor Strange because that works really well. The Spider-Man has stealth and as a wild card to take it, and then Eclipso gives stealth, so that Midnight Suns stuff can be happening for him. And then the team was finished off with a Pandora's Box with Lust and Wrath relics. And I believe the path that he was choosing was the one that when he got to 2 relics gave him either charge or perplex, and not the
Hunter.
Prob.
Path of the Hunter.
Okay, that is what he picked. Unfortunately, his team doesn't exactly have the best matchup against mine because Doctor Strange is running Shots IQ Blast, and the Quinjet can reduce penetrating damage, and the Colossal Atom just kind of completely ruins any Midnight Suns-like team's day, especially because he ignores basically every defense power. So even with the reflexes from the box to ensure that he has great defenses from close with the ATA, I just kind of managed to let him get a hit off first, similar to against Mike's Loki team, call on the Atom, get his characters off their top clicks, and then just proceed from there. He ended up taking quite a few points from me, as with goes with every ID card team. He took 125 for me, and I took 299. And then we got into round 2, which was... Where was I against Carlos? I'm just pulling up the results from the win, just to be sure. Oh yeah, so it was me against Carlos, who ended up placing second at the event, with quite an interesting team of 2 Nick Furies as regular characters, and 2 War Wheels, because Soldier theme is the best theme ever, apparently. The War Wheels have an interesting and good Colossal Retaliation, and have a quite good speed to carry the Nicks up and serve as pseudo blocking terrain for them. In this particular game, he actually managed to win map roll and put us on the newer Friendly Neighborhood map for the Spider-Man set, which is just a lot of elevation, which Nick enjoys. And this game, although I managed to take some points, he managed to take a gross amount of points for me by managing to destroy my call-ins. So he ended up winning that game with 420 points, but I did manage to take his War Wheels, Nick Fury, and the ID card he called in to take 159. So after my first victory, I wasn't in the best place. We go into round 3, which was a game I should not have won. This was against Chris Flores, who was playing an interesting robot pseudo-colossal team, which was a Krang. He had a Solaris Colossal Retaliation. He had a Brimstone Colossal Retaliation, an Ultron 18.2 drone for Collins, and he had a Mercury for TK. And his ID cards were a level 7 for either Nick Fury or a Sniper Bucky Barnes, which he rolled with Bucky Barnes, and then he had a Nightwing card. So this game was going in his favor for most of it, and I guess I should mention now that the time rule that they were going with was last round, so it was when time was called, finish that round, and then do another round so that the second player would finish on their turn, so both players get the same number of turns, which is a differently good system. So in this particular game, he pretty much had it in the bag, but if any game I've ever seen was decided by the fate of dice, it would have to be this one, because he had... his Krang was on his third to last click, and during that turn he had picked Colossal. He had already brought in his Tony Zuko Pog, and Tony Zuko apparently is a traitor and just is a bad guy overall, because for his support roll, he rolled a crit miss.
Oh, no!
Yeah. I felt absolutely terribly and should not have won this game.
He was, I the look on his face.
Yeah, he had no prob of any kind. He just had to take a second and just take it all in. And I felt really bad for him after that. So after that, his Krang died, and then I got another turn, because I had been the second player, because he had one map roll, so I did a call-in to finish something off, just get a little more points, and then that game ended up being 275 for me to 220 for him.
Wow.
It was a really cool team because I guess I forgot to mention that he had the Rock of Eternity on the Krang, and that can actually give him some interesting powers. In particular, in this game, he had from what he got from the resource, he had Flurry, which goes incredibly with Krang's charge stats and being a Colossal to get those close combat attacks in.
Quite.
And then that also combos nicely with Solaris' giving action tokens and the whole mechanic where the dial turns based on the opponent taking tokens, regardless of if they're even your own choice of actions or whatnot. So it's quite an interesting team. I don't believe he ended up making the cut. But yeah, I felt really... That was totally a dice game and should not have won that one, to be honest. Then the round 3 was against Aaron Cantu. This is actually the first time I had ever played against him, and I was frightened terribly, because he is quite the player. And of course, he knows my team as well as I do, if not better. So the game he was playing a very interesting martial artist team with Taskmaster from Civil War, with, I believe, Brainiac. Then he had the amazing OP Blade with Midnight Suns, and was it Eclipso on him? Something on him. And then he had 25-point Nightwing from the World's Finest Fast Forces. So because both Taskmaster and Nightwing are wildcards and start with stealth, they get the benefit of Midnight as well. So not dissimilar to some other You Can't See Me teams that we're seeing out there. He also had a Pandora's box with all relics on it besides Greed, I believe, and then for obviously the combat reflexes mostly, and the critical powers from Dial, as well as a level 7 card for Peggy and an Adam ID card for the Colossal. So this game, unfortunately, my Adam just kind of ruins that strategy because, again, Midnight Suns is only on the top click. Adam comes in, ignores the reflexes that he has, and just kind of wrecks the whole strategy. And then there were some errors on both ends of play, I would say. Like, in one case, he had kept his Nightwing within the range of the calls of retaliation instead of just running away, which I guess was just more of a mistake, and he realized immediately after. And then getting that Nightwing kind of helped a lot because the Outsiders would have impacted my stats, which I was relying on for most of my attacks because combat reflexes were still a huge factor. And dice just tended to go my way, and the game ended with me winning, taking a bunch of extra points from the Atom and something that I can't remember. I guess it was Peggy or something. His triathlon call that I forgot to mention before. So I ended up winning that game with 370 points to his 130 because Quinjet teams just give away points like it's nothing. So then we get into round 5, which was after I sat down and saw my opponent's team, I kind of was not very eager because I saw the exact same team as Jason. And Jason was the one that beat me at the Canada Cups. So that was quite frightening to see. That was a team pretty similar to Patrick's, I think, very similar ID cards with the 2 Ultron drones, Henry, Atomica, and whatnot set up. So that game ended up being extremely close. It was just more of a back and forth. He did some call-ins that I killed. He killed some of my call-ins and whatnot. Ended up going back and forth. And then the game ended up going to time. And despite the fact that I ended up with more points on the board with him still, because I still had my Jarvis, whereas I KO'd all of his support pieces that weren't the Quinjet, or all of his pieces besides the Quinjet, it ended up being that we had a very close score of 305 to 245, the 60-point difference being his Peggy that I just managed to call in, even though she was a permanent call-in, so I managed to kill her all in one shot. So that put me at that point at the time of the cut. I was second place, just after Carlos, I believe. So then we get into, I guess, a pause for anybody who wants to jump in and say things.
Oh no, I just got cut out, so I'm just gonna pick myself back up again. Sounded
Actually,
like a tense day so far, frankly.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So your opponent last round didn't do what I did, and just immediately revert to kill the Quinjet or I lose.
Apparently not.
Like, for future reference, if you see Jay across the table, kill the Quinjet. It's the best way to do it.
Right, that's almost as easily done as said.
Hey man, I did it. Just saying.
Hey, I killed a Quinjet too, you may recall, but it's still hard.
Yeah, but that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've noticed that either Quinjets tend to either get just killed in a game or never even attacked at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was quite a close game. Too close for my taste. I guess not as close as the game I'll talk about in a few minutes. So then, after the cut, I ended up facing Dustin Hall again. But fortunately for him, he had been able to make some strategic moves and whatnot to do a little better against my team, which was primarily when he made his first attack against my team. He made sure that his 2 characters weren't within range or close enough to each other to both get retaliated on at once. So I had hit his Strange with it, but not his Spider-Man Noir. So Noir maintained his Midnight Suns awesomeness. Unfortunately, the team just doesn't really do good against my team once I managed to do an Atom to hit the Doctor Strange and then call in a Nick Fury to just blast him to smithereens.
Sounds like a bad matchup.
Yeah, he played it about as well as he could have. I didn't really see anything that he could have done differently, but that game ended up with me taking his full team, him actually taking 205 points. surprisingly,
That's good.
which was decent for him. And I guess I just wanted to hear that I think all but one of these, the map roll of bonus of +5 to me was very beneficial. I don't think I lost map roll to teams that didn't have theme, and then they were very close for ones where my opponents had theme. Like Carlos had +4 and managed to win map roll. The dude with the robot swarm of +5 managed to win map roll to pick his map. So being able to pick Day in the Street and catch people by surprise with that was very helpful strategically and could really interfere with some teams depending on how they're structured.
Really,
If
they'd never played on that before, eh?
I think one of the things with that map is that after WizKids banned it, or pseudo-banned it from World, it just kind of wasn't relevant so much. But I guess it's just not a map that gets played with so often.
I would also,
really...
I was just going to say, I also think that it is a map that interferes with both sides to a certain extent, and although some teams will be more affected by it than others, I think a lot of people just take it as a foregone conclusion that it's not going to be worth the frustration for anybody, so they don't really think anyone will play it, which is, not at all accurate, but it's I can understand the feeling.
Yeah, I think that teams can be built around being able to play around it, like how I guess the Quinjet team will be better off with it because the Quinjet just carries everybody else, has good speed to get wherever it needs to go, and then a bunch of the columns ignore elevation for line of fire, so they can still make attacks normally and reposition for when you need to do it. But yeah, there was a lot of frustration, both in terms of just frustration of the map being annoying as well as gameplay-wise that I felt was good and helped shift some games in my favor. So I think that it's still worth. I'm still keeping and playing my Avengers variant of the Quinjet because I feel that just the map roll bonus and theme probs are just differently good to the ability of Ultron drones to do what they do, and it feels more fun to have the Avengers theme with it.
You've done exceptionally well with it, so there's no real reason to tweak it any further. You've tweaked the crap out of that, and you've played the crap out of it. So
well, I still haven't seen anything.
You should be really
like
proud
it.
of how you've done.
I haven't seen anybody else play anything like it. I'm only seeing Quinjet Ultron builds. Surprised I haven't seen anything with Shield because it does have Shield as well.
I think that for a lot of people, there's a resistance towards taking something that has been proven works really well and trying to reform it in a way that on paper maybe doesn't seem to jump out as working as well. Like your team is a harder sell, I think, even though it definitely has its advantages, and there's a lot that it does well. You have to be on the inside. You have to have really dug around with it to see that. When you look at it at first, you think, huh, too bad there are no Ultron drones.
Yeah, I also feel that, I will still say it, that I feel that Ultron drones can be a liability with the age of the Atom still being a thing, and him just being rampant with some teams having 2. I haven't seen any teams with 3, but there's a lot of teams that are running 2 of them even, so that can be some scary stuff to have to contend with when your 30-point piece is costed accordingly and has the number of clicks that it should have at 2. So
I think one of the things to also bring up with regards to how the Ultron is a risk to the Atom, it's only a risk if the Ultron is doing any attacking. If it's just doing call-ins, you can keep your call-ins at the right distance. It's a non-liability.
Yeah, and I like how you keep your Jason Collins at. Never mind.
God. Oh, you see, you definitely don't have kids. There's no confidence going in on that.
No, it really isn't. I don't have the dad jokes down yet. Yeah.
You have to know that your pun is funny. You have to really give it the whole self.
You just have to go in not caring. It's just, I'm going in hot. Okay, Jay, carry on.
Okay, so this next game ended up being one of the absolute closest I've ever played. Although I am kind of happy with how it ended up turning out, as I will elaborate on in a second. So this was against Kevin Afruz, which is just a very scary... He's a very scary guy to have to sit against because he has an intimidating beard. He's a good player. He has the beard.
Oh, man.
That's a half-ass beard. Come on now.
Yeah, really.
He was playing his wackiness, amazing Frogman. I'm going to call it his Frogman team because Frogman is just the best.
That's what
that was the new. That's the new Frog. The only Frogman. Mixie, Fast Forces, Jean Grey, Age of Ultron, Ultron drone, I believe Ultron 6 drone, and an Atom, or sorry, 2 Atoms on the map, along with a round table with a Ronin card, a level 7 for Nick, Ronin calling in Ronin, Black Canary, and I don't believe he used the other 2, but he had 5 total. I can't remember the other 2 off the top of my head.
Ronin Shield, level
so-
7, Black Canary, Iron Man, U.S. Agent.
Oh.
Oh yeah, Iron Man for the 100.1 from the original Avengers Task Force, and presumably U.S. Agent for the only legal one.
That would make sense.
So this game ended up being map 1 in my favor because I plus 5 team initiative to a 0. And this team is just really, when you just first sit across the map from it, it's quite intimidating because there's so much going on there with just in terms of actual characters and so many different things that the team does. Like you have the obvious combo of the Ultron, Drone, Jean Grey, TK, whatnot stuff. But you also have Frogman, who can be the new Blind Owl and do activation clips with his trait, and Mixie to get Mixie on his Pulse Wave clip, which can just really tie down a team. And then he also has the 2 Atoms that are just sitting there being atoms and intimidating. There's just so many different options that he can do at any one time to attack your team with a lot of force with ID card call-ins or atoms, or just tie down your team with the Mixie Pulse Wave. Also forgot that he had an Atomic on the team for Prob, which I think was his only Prob besides Nick Fury. So this game was I moved up. He did a TK, called in his Nick Fury, made an attack against my Captain America, and then did the classic TK back the Ultron drone to not get retaliated on, which
The best trick of the book.
too pride.
Yeah.
And then I think
love that trick.
Yeah. I cleared. He called in a Black Canary. I killed the Black Canary. Then he started moving up more with his atoms carrying and whatnot, and then starting to set up where Mixie can make an attack with his Pulse Wave potentially. But in this particular game, he never actually ended up using Mixie for that because he was doing his Ice a bunch. But then I managed to get a combo of Peggy Carter as a permanent call-in to move up close enough to him to shut off his super senses with her special power, and then follow it up with a Nightwing charge flurry to kill him. So then they called time after just a bunch of back and forth. And at that point, the points were 250 points in his favor and 212 for me. At this point, he had Atomica on her last click because she had been hit with an Atom Claws retaliation of mine a while back. And he had... There's a bunch of characters up close to me, and I had my Quinjet at top dial, and a Tony Zuko Pog left to cheer on my Quinjet. So because after the time is called and you just have the turns, whatever, there's no time limit at that point. So we just took a second to just do all the math and see what the situation was at. And I was looking at it and thought that I had absolutely no chance of taking the win back at that point with the points that I had. But then I remembered that I had Iron Man on as the pilot, thank you Tom, of my Quinjet, and the pilot ability of the shield keyword given to the Quinjet is an extra target. The Quinjet at that point was top dial, so it had Precision Strike and 11 and 3. Atomica was on her last click. He had an Atom that was just close enough for me to make an attack.
Ooh.
So at that point, my only possible chance was doing a running shot with the Quinjet with Perplex. There's my best possible odds. Because there was some different options I could have done. Like I could have forgone Precision Strike from the Quinjet to use Perplex from the pilot, but then Atomica would have had super senses. But I figured that I was going to go with the best possible attack roll and then keep the Precision Strike to make sure that super senses wouldn't happen. So at that point, with it being 212 to 250, if I killed the Atomica and the Atom with my dual targets, I would have just taken the game with 252 to 250. With it was technically he was going to have a turn after me, but because there was no possible way he would take out the Quinjet, it was essentially the last turn. So I did my big, dramatic, doing all my thinking and whatnot, running shot with the Quinjet on his Atomica and the Adam, which, because he had Nick Fury on the map, he would have had 2 probs on me, but since I had Tony Zuko out, I would have had a 12 attack on an 18 and a 17. And instead of rolling a couple 6s in a row with the prob, my very first attack roll was a tragic 5.
Oh.
So I did kill the Atom, but Atomica was still alive. And I just lost that match, and probably was what was the closest match ever.
Other than our match, where it was 145 to 144.
Yeah,
But this was more we realized it at the time, not, oh crap, I
that's how Kevin DeFreeze will get you. I remember that he beat me in Windsor in a situation that may not be similar as far as the specifics, but it was very much this roll will determine the outcome of the game. It was a Proxima Midnight and a Super Skrull, and so he didn't take Invincible. Proxima Midnight's token would have killed his Super Skrull. I rolled the Proxima token, and it was not a kill. And thus he finished my team off instead of his Super Skrull dying and me mopping up. So yeah.
And in the round previous, I took the choice of giving the Invincible to Zombie Super Skrull and ended up rolling the 1 that killed my Zombie Super Skrull.
That's true. It was deja vu all over again, but not in my favor.
It would have been nice to have rolled the 6 the first time, regardless of the 2 probs he had with Atomica and Nick Fury. But
yeah, exactly. It would have felt a little bit more earned if he'd probbed you into a miss, as opposed to a straight miss.
As opposed to just self-sabotage.
Actually, I think 3 of us have really good, close stories of our games with Kevin DeFreeze, because the first year Canadian Nationals beating him at a 40-point difference in our game, and I was dropping hammers all over his New Mutants team base. It was insane.
And did he win that one too?
By 40, by the last dice roll that I critically missed.
So what we basically have here is the Kevin DeFreeze beats us all by a hair team.
But here's the thing, it's only going to happen once. That's the way I'm calling it. Next time, one of us is going to cream the other one, and I'm okay with that.
I don't know. Sounds like there's been 3 opportunities in a row for us to get one back on Team Majestics, and it seems like we've failed every time. So
yeah, I know.
Well, I don't know. My experience has been different than your guys. I mean, I the very first time I played him, he whooped me good.
That's actually what we're talking about is Kevin winning.
No, I mean, but you're talking about close experiences. This was not close.
Oh, okay.
He annihilated me. And then the second time we faced each other, I got him, but it wasn't close either. These were clear victories over one another.
So here's how it works then. And of course we're starting podcast beef at this point because him and Scott Crampton have their
Crampton's beating me too.
Clicks.
So.
But now Tom, myself, and Jay will have one coming to Kevin DeFreeze. He's going to be sweating for it because this is going to be another squeaker.
I'm very interested to see how he recounts that game in his particular podcast, because I can only imagine the horror he must have experienced realizing that I theoretically could have gotten that one game in.
I'm glad I now understand that what you said was horror.
Yeah.
You have to be very specific in how you pronounce that word.
Because I had an 11. Yeah.
Because that's definitely a Clicks After Dark podcast, to say the least.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I guess we should take this opportunity. Yeah, go check out Critical Clicks because it's a great little cast that Kevin and Scott have been doing. I've stayed up with every episode, and they're funny and they're great.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add a link to the description below. Jay, just give us your post-mortem there on the event, though.
So I guess the only good thing about this whole loss was that the finals, of course, ended up being Kevin and Carlos. I had no chance against Carlos, I don't think. So the fact that Kevin managed to beat me and then beat him was kind of an okay kind of thing, where it was just better off that way, I think.
Fair enough.
And then, actually, surprisingly, I did very well. The difference in points between me and the guy who was 4th place, who I believe was also very similar, Jason Patrick Quinjet team, was 1,919 points to me to 1,311 for him. So quite the difference there, surprisingly. And so I guess that's the whole story.
Well, congratulations, Jay, because that's pretty awesome. Well done.
Well done, sir.
3rd place in the U.S. Nationals. Very, very impressive.
Very cool.
And congratulations to Kevin DeFreeze, who won the U.S. Nationals.
And let's take a second to give to get a look at all the top 8 in this event.
Yeah.
Because Majestics needs to be. We always need to be reminded that Majestics is one of our favorite sites to go, and of course the Apex Insiders site. Check that out for your membership. This is going to be one of the articles that's listed as free though. So we have the results here, and in the top 8. 8th place was Matt Peterson with Superman Blue at 125 points. Brainiac 25 points. Equipped Superman Blue. Nighthawk Prime at 65. Ultron 7 drone mode. So that's going to be 125 points call-in options. Adam at 15 and Pandora's Box at 20 with a Sloth Relic and a Wrath Relic. His ID cards of choice were Shield Level 7, Wonder Woman, Green Arrow, and Lex Luthor. Next up, we have in 7th place Corey Henry. He's playing the Quinjet with an Ultron 6 and Ultron Future, Atomica, Henry, and Atom. And his ID cards were the Atom, Iron Man, Shield Level 7 ×2, Nightwing, Black Canary, Green Arrow, Red Tornado. So yeah, he's a very similar ID card sign up than I do.
Although the team listing is wrong though, because he did have the Ultron 6 drone, but I believe he had an 18.2. It wasn't. I don't remember exactly what it was.
So
but it wasn't
at that point. That is, in fact, Jason's exact Quinjet, which is very, very close to Patrick's Quinjet. So
yeah,
great minds think alike.
Yeah, 2 changes to Patrick's version, and I double checked. It's like this is very similar to yours, isn't it? Because I had come to a very similar conclusion to Patrick's, but I think I was 2 ID cards different from him originally, and then even the second time I was because the Nova got phased out, and I added the Green Arrow to deal with the new Vanisher matchup that exists. In 6th place, Roland Wellington, who Jay mentioned earlier, Krang, Justin Safert, Baxter Stockman, Ultron 6, and Pandora's Box. Sorry, is this the team you mentioned earlier, or is this another version of the same thing? With 2 ID cards, Shield Level 7, and the Batman ID card.
Well, this is an entirely different team than I faced.
Okay, sorry.
There was a fair amount of Krang there. I think there was at least 3 entirely different versions of it.
Krang with Batman's a nice combination. I love the fact that you can bring in a 12 attack support piece if you need it.
Yeah. It's like, you know what? Baxter's just not going to do it. Justin's just not going to do it. Batman, heal me up!
And for that matter, you can also bring in a running shot pulse waiver if you really want to, and all kinds of other great things. So that Batman is the best.
Just call me Dr. Wayne. All right. Next up, Dustin Hall's team. Doctor Strange with Eclipso with Midnight Suns ATA, Spider-Man Noir with Brainiac, Pandora's Box with Lust and Wrath, and then we have in 4th place Zach Tan, basically the same Quinjet build with Bucky Barnes instead of the
Green Arrow. Yeah.
And
again, we have Ultron Future listed, if that's right.
I didn't see this one for sure, but I would doubt it. I could be wrong, though.
18.2 could tend. I mean, sometimes people are playing before that extra poison damage. Who knows?
Well, yeah, Future's got the feedback if you can't take it out in one go, which is great.
Yeah. Next up, we have some guy named Jay Solomon. He's not important.
Yeah, whatever. Not sure who that guy.
Before you go by, I have one formal complaint and one comment. This is like the only good picture anybody has ever taken of me in relation to clicks. And second of all, that map is supposed to be based on the TTC, and you can even see the logo on it, whatever. And then, as you see in the middle, there's just a huge USA logo, because they own us.
That's still good. I'd like to point out that the highest placing Quinjet in the tournament was, in fact, the Theme Team Quinjet. So, something to be said for it.
Practice does make your team better, and I've been running this team. When was Canadian Nationals?
Yeah, that's fair. You haven't been playing for a
I've
while.
been working and tweaking on this team for months and months and months.
Well, now you got lots of Spider-Man options.
Yeah.
I think at this point, this team is staying the same. I don't see any tweaking happening, possibly.
Everybody counterbuild it.
Never say never.
Everybody counterbuild me right now. Just do it.
Never say never.
In fact, ignore his little stuff and go for his quit. I mean, next up, 2nd place, Carlos Munoz. 2 Nick Furies, 2 War Wheels, Pandora's Box with Envy and Pride, a Spider-Man ID card, and a Shield Level 7 ID card. His sideline was a Cyborg Spider-Man, the Super Rare Spider-Man at 100 points, and another Nick Fury on the sideline. Wow, that guy's kind of collected some Nick Furies.
Yeah, no kidding.
That Cyborg chase is quite something with decent improved targeting. All 3 rollouts on that dial. and Psychic Blast to do some decent damage, as well as the Web Marker.
What's his value?
100.
Right.
100 or a higher one that you can't be running on that.
150, which you wouldn't be able to call in with this team.
Yeah. Against me, he called in the regular Spider-Man, though.
I almost want to call this a Fury as Vengeance. So you just got to go in there and do it, Mike.
It was like Jason Sparta. It was almost like after Jason Sparta retired, he just sat down and was like, "How can I do this, but even better?"
War wheel. It's a 4-square wall of get around this. I dare you. All right, and then of course in first place we have Kevin Afruz with Mr. Mixes-Pitalik, Fast Force Jean Grey, Frogman, Ultron 6, the Age of Ultron 6-armed Ultron, Atomica, 2 Atoms, and an Avengers round table at 30 points with 5 ID cards. Ronin, Shield level 7, Black Canary, Iron Man, U.S. Agent, with the Nick Fury, an Iron Man, the Nick Fury Agents of Shield. Wait, what?
That's wrong. It was the Fast Forces Age of Ultron original Avengers.
Gotcha.
One.
All right. Ronin in the sideline, Black Canary, U.S. Agent. Very interesting selection for that round table. Very, very cool. Congrats to all of you guys who made the top 8. Congrats to everybody who made it out. I'm sure you guys all played your best and played teams that you were very confident with. And Jay, again, a big congratulations to you. Third place is nothing to shake a stick at. It's pretty fantastic, buddy. So
that was a backhanded compliment if there ever was one.
Huh?
I think it was pretty.
No, if I was going to be giving you a backhanded compliment, it would be a compliment while backhanding you. And you're too far for that, Jay. Oh, man. And I do want to take a second to remind people, if you guys want have questions or a topic that you want us to discuss at the end of the episode and you're watching live right now, throw it in the YouTube comments below. I know Aaron Cantu has been quite noisy down there. I just haven't had a chance to get ahead and read most of it because I was listening to Jay and his conversations about the U.S. Rock Cup. But I'm pretty sure Aaron Cantu is throwing in his corrections, CJJ. So anything you messed up in the story, he's going to get you on. Also, I do want to remind everybody that next Friday is our patron hangout, where I put these guys on the hook for it. And as well, Amber isn't going to be present. So it's actually going to be a fully Metal Lab patron hangout. So I kind of need you guys to show up.
Wow. We'll be there, buddy.
By the way, I actually just found about this recently. I didn't read Amber's schedule when I first announced it. But so if you have questions for these guys and myself, and you are a patron, you'll be able to join in on that. We'll be putting it up live again on September 2nd, which is next Friday. If you want to get in on the Patreon program, check us out at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. All right. Now we've been very busy on the show the past couple weeks. We had a lot of stuff to talk about. The Rock Canada Cup, the entire set of Superior Foes of Spider-Man, Tom's charts in there as well. I mean, it's been hectic, so we've kind of been lax and missing a lot of our monthly OP kit teams. So we're going to throw a double whammy at you guys this week. We have to wrap up the Defenders OP kit. I say that lightly. It should be called Heroes for Hire. With Shroud. And we are also going to be starting the Justice League OP kit with Atom teams. Now, everybody was kind of on their own to build this week. I do want to tell everybody now and let these guys know, starting next week, we're going to be going back to the limited format for our builds for a number of reasons, one of which is that the Rock World Cup semifinals, so I believe it was the one that requires you getting 50 points to enter, is under the Rock limited format. So a lot of people have been building Modern. We've been thinking about Modern for a while. That's okay. There's 2 Modern tournaments there, but the limited format is kind of out of the headspace right now. I want to get people back into it. And if you do plan on getting into the Rock World Cup, and you are either going to be in that semifinal or plan on being there, or starting in the quarterfinal, make it to the semifinal, you kind of want to be ready for it. So starting next week, and you guys now know, I didn't tell them ahead of time, that starting next week we're going to be limiting ourselves to the limited format. It could actually help the longevity or the skill cap on the characters, or the
how good they look. It could also make them look worse. Who knows? So we'll see how that
Well,
goes.
one of my teams is limited anyway.
Yeah, actually, I ended up building both of my teams very limited anyway. But without further ado, I do want to start with our Shroud teams, and I believe the last time I was talking to Tom about the Shroud, he was super excited about him, and I want to let Tom go first.
Absolutely, and yeah, good point. I was excited about my Shroud team. I'll just click on it here, and I will share it for the whole world to see. So, for the Shroud...
Okay, there we go.
There we go. The Shroud, first of all, a quick little look at what this guy does. He's 5 clicks deep. He has stealth for the whole dial. He's 40 points, which is a deal, with Heroes for Hire, Mystical, Martial Artist, and Night Shift keywords. He has improved movement to ignore hindering terrain. His dial is relatively straightforward, starting out with some combat reflexes, as he'll need on his only mere 16 defense, ending out with willpower, some upfront shape change that turns into combat reflexes late dial, a trait that says when an opposing character occupies one of the Shroud's smoke cloud markers and is adjacent to 2 other smoke cloud markers, that character modifies his attack value by -1, so he can really do some serious making people not see things. And he has an attack special on every click of his dial, which is once per turn he can use smoke cloud. When he does, he can place up to 9 hindering terrain markers if at least 1 marker is placed adjacent to him, or he may use it as a free action, but only to place a hindering terrain marker in his own square and up to 2 hindering markers each in adjacent squares. The first thing you look at when you think of a guy who can use Smoke Cloud for free is stealth, and the second thing that you think of is the Midnight Suns ATA, which we've already heard about on this show, and it is a great ATA, one of the best in the game. And so that was where I was building with. I put Shroud onto a team. It's a mystical themed team along with Blade. This is one of the few people who can use Midnight Suns in the modern these days, and actually starts with stealth right as part of his power. He's a good little charge precision strike piece on top of that, and takes away steel energy, which doesn't really matter too much. He's not a great piece, but he's a solid one, and of course he brings along the Midnight Suns ATA with a free smoke cloud from Shroud. They should have to get close to him, and at that point they're dealing with the fact that he's a close combat fighter of some renown. The question for the Flash, the chase question, is the 100-point addition to this, who's just a fantastic piece, too much to go over, but suffice to say that he is a wild card. He starts with stealth, and so he can copy the Midnight Suns ATA. He'll always be within smoke cloud range. I also put Brainiac on him. This is partly to further increase his already impressive defenses. He's got high defense with shape change and super senses, and now he can take impervious as well. And as he starts to take damage and goes through his dial, he can take Brainiac's power to remove tokens when opposing characters are given power actions. That combines nicely with the fact that when he uses Outwit, then he removes a token for himself. If he has 2 action tokens. So between that and Brainiac's power, the question should never be tokened out, and we should have lots of opportunity to wreck house before he dies. As noted, the Midnight Suns ATA is on there, and since that is going to force people to come to this team, then I've given this team Pandora's box in its entirety. So they can basically sit back and start filling up the box. Now, admittedly, the Shroud can be targeted. The Shroud's not using Midnight Sun, so get the first relic on him, and then have him hang back, let him be the target. If your opponent crosses the entire map to come after him, then make them regret it by dogpiling them with Question and Blade. If they don't move out fast enough, get those relics on there so the Pandora's box can turn them into gods, and then let them do some serious house wrecking. So it's not the most creative team in the world, and as we've seen, Midnight Suns is starting to make a comeback right now. So it's not. It's of the moment, I guess you might say. But all the same, it's a team that I would actually be interested in playing. I mean, we do these things every week, but this is one that I would be really interested in testing out and taking for a test ride and see how it goes. So.
All right.
There you go.
Awesome, Mike.
Well, Tom, we made pretty much the same team. We do that
sometimes
sometimes.
the smart conclusion is the good conclusion, and multiple people will come to that conclusion.
Well,
Don't
I was
everybody
looking.
lose their minds. It's okay. You guys didn't show up in the same dress to the same party. It's okay.
Fair.
Well, he is my dancing partner after all. All right. 1 second, let me share my screen here. All right. Yes, that is the correct screen. Okay. I started with Doctor Strange in this case, the 150 point. It's very similar to some of the teams that Jay was talking about, where it's Doctor Strange plus another mystical character to be able to get the Midnight Suns ATA going and then copied. So it's Doctor Strange at 150 points plus Eclipso. The question at 60 points, not 100 points, along with Shroud. He will, and then Midnight Suns, which is then copied by the question. Let's see, Pandora's Box with Envy and Lust. Lust, plasticity is awesome. And Envy because the question's attack value sucks. That is lower point value. It is freaking terrible.
It's not the best.
But the rest is pretty obvious. It does what it does. Just try to keep them on their top clicks so that they cannot be taken advantage of. Shroud is just there. He says hello every once in a while, kind of like does a little pirouette, bows for the audience.
And he drops smoke.
He drops smoke. He's stealthy. Yeah, he's there. Okay. Anyway, that's my team.
All right, Jay.
I also built the exact same team.
Yeah.
No.
Yes, I'm the unique one this week.
No, I actually...
You really are.
Shroud is not the best piece, but I did see some potential with what he can do with that smoke cloud, so I started off with him. Then I threw in Mephisto at full points because he does start off with stealth himself, and setting it up with the smoke cloud can be quite helpful. And then I finished it off as far as characters go with Sebastian Faust, because he also, while he doesn't have stealth, he quite enjoys having some hindering terrain being spread around for his teleportation sidestep awesomeness. So what you have here is you have Shroud is there to be there pretty much. He sets up the smoke cloud for the stealth and the setup of Faust, and then you have Mephisto, who can use his manipulation power to set up opposing characters for Faust to attack, while Faust has his amazing mobility and with his sidestep. And then you finish it off with Roundtable, Rick Jones for the inspiration, as well as A-Bomb when you get to the Avengers Assemble click, because he is just too high for Mephisto to call in. And Mephisto, at his 45 points, can also be good for calling in the ID cards. Level 7 for Peggy, level 7 for Nick. I think I have too many ID cards here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, well. Level 7 for Peggy and Nick.
Cheating.
Yeah. Bucky Barnes for the inspiration of ignoring the shape change to go with Faust's Psychic Blast to get rid of the rollouts. Spider-Woman for plasticity and her ignoring senses when attacking, so Faust is going to be getting one of two great inspirations offensively. And then I guess I will leave my last ID card as Batman, because Batman does stuff. He does Batman stuff. And then you have some room for an ATA of some sort, which is nice.
All right, awesome. So being the one guy that went unique, but because I went limited, that's sort of the direction I went in with this. It's weird that this happens, so bear with me. So I started, of course, with the Shroud. Figure where our homework is part of. But I got to double down on the smoke cloud and added Veil to it all.
Wow.
Veil, of course, another source of free action smoke cloud. And between hers and Shroud's, if their characters can't ignore hindering for movement purposes, well-placed smoke clouds are going to leave them taking damage with Veil. Because Veil, she can't carry, she flies, but she got special attack power on her first clicks. When Veil has less than 2 action tokens, she can use Smoke Cloud as free action. When she does deal 1 damage to any opposing character, ends its turn, occupying or adjacent to one of these markers. So if you actually leave a character who can't get past hindering through movement, and leave them in the middle of a bunch of smoke clouds and have one of hers adjacent to them, start stacking them, because that's what you can do with smoke clouds. You can get really bonkers with it. Veil can really start to mount up some additional damage. Of course, I needed a little bit of offense on this team, and that's what Zatara and Clarion are there for. Now, Zatara is actually going to be played in the reverse dial form for this team, so he's going to be more offensive with the running shot, Psychic Blast, some enhancement as well. Of course, that mid-dial sacrifice myself pulse wave might be pretty cool, or it might not, depending on the team that you're up against. And then late dial, perplex, and prop, because you got to do the dial in reverse in that way, right? So, and a little mystics to add to it. Add a little bit more mystics, because this is the thing, is I wanted my main attackers to be half decent, if not great, but punish my opponent for going for them. but resulting in them wanting to go for Shrouded Veil more first. And with that said, Clarion, of course, does what Clarion do. A little bit of Psychic Blast, a little bit of Prob, a little bit of Perplex from the cat. The cat can't seem to roll less than a 5 for Blaze Claws and Fangs. I don't know what's going on there. It's the only time I can't complain about my dice rolls is whenever Clarion's kitty, Teakle, starts making attacks. And to cap it all off, the attacks aren't great, so let's make that not matter and add Crazy Quilt to the mix. I decided the Crazy Quilt would be a nice little piece of insanity to add to it. Plus the ability to potentially mind control the targets he needs to mind control, or even Psychic Blast them, could go in a little bit of direction. I started with Shroud, went to Veil, and this kind of got here. I don't know how. I might have been drinking. I'm not sure. This Bud Light apple is pretty delicious. But that said, that's kind of the direction I ended up in.
And because it's a limited team, you can throw pin particles on there.
Well, that was one of the things that had the 3 points left over. Pin Particles is definitely a top choice. I do wish the Symbiote was 3 points instead of 6.
I wish that you could play. I wish you could play the Punisher's weapons without the Punisher. I think that would be cool.
Can't you play the Punisher's weapons without the Punisher? They're just not free actions to pick up.
No, it says that you can't be putting them on the force without a Punisher or a Punisher man.
That's unfortunately the case. I wish.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's dumb. I was rereading it today because I wanted to have like Molotov cocktails and stuff on one of my teams, but no.
Boo. All right. So on that note, and I'm gonna start the next one because mine was pretty easy actually this time around. But the next figure we're going to be talking about is going to be the Atom. And this is Jay's been really excited about this figure, so why not? So the Atom comes in at 75 points, Justice League team ability, Justice League, and Scientist keywords. He's got a traded stealth. He's got some precision strike about there. What you see is what you get on dial. He is tiny size as well, but he's got a special movement power on his first and last click. Ride the phone lines. The Atom can use phasing teleport when the Atom is given a move action. If he occupies the square with an unheld object, before moving, you may place him in any other square with an object. So it's a good way to get right across the board and use that outwit when you need to use it. Plus, being tiny with a 19 defense is pretty fantastic at range. Comes with some super senses as well. And then I went lazy on this team.
I can see that.
The Atom and Superman. And this is, of course, to target Superman. He's a big body with a lot of big stats. With the Batman ally and Superman ally team abilities, as well ignores movement blocking for blocking terrain and destroys it as you prefer it. Of course, Superman ally ignoring hindering for line of fire. He's got the special power on several clicks. He can use Impervious at the beginning of your turn as Superman occupies clear outdoor terrain, heal him of damage equal to the number of action tokens on him. It's one of those cases where you could possibly heal and just be obnoxiously hard to kill. And then, Atom adds some outwit, some very mobile, friendly outwit to make Superman just melt through characters. It's one of those characters that's not common to me, but I decided to just kind of switch it up a little. Also, name theme team, therefore Justice League team keyword because of the Justice League keyword, and that gives me 2 theme probs. So the Atom double duties with a little bit of limited prob with that outwit and possible perplex on the 3rd click, depending on where I am. So I decided to go lazy, and that's why I wanted to go first. And I know Jay's super excited to talk about the Atom. So Jay, you get to go next on the Atom.
This was not my best team, just because it ends up being very grown and sad-worthy. But we start off with the Atom, and then throw in Atomica, both because I love her as well, because that's thematically fun. You have 2 characters with really good defenses, outwit and prob. They cover basically most of your support powers that you're going to need. And then, because I only built this team a minute ago, it was also a limited format. So then we throw in the Element Man from World's Finest, who is just a delightful piece to play with all the rollouts, amazing time potential, good stats, outsiders, a lot of good stuff going on there. And that is 200 points. Then I went with Trinity War Batman at 85 points because he is just the Batman, and he does all sorts of amazing things. As well as being able to give Atomica stealth to be further annoying and better help protect her. And then I had 15 points left, so I decided to add what is essentially Joe Chill with the Thug. Grown time.
I like the Thug. I think it's good.
Yeah, and also in the Trinity, the Batman Justice League trait to get Batman Ally can also further protect him. So you have a lot of utility there between the Batman and the Element Man, as we've seen with the Mike White team. So you have all the TK you need. You have all the support, more than all the support powers you need between Batman, Atomica, and the Atom. You have Element Man's decent attack. It's a slow boil, but once this team gets going, I think it can do some serious damage. With 5 points left, I threw in the Justice League 1.8 TA for even better defenses on those 19s and up. So probably not going to be winning any major events, but I thought it was decent enough.
All right, Mike.
All right, me. Hold on. There we go. I'll try to remember to turn off the screen share this time.
That's okay. I'm just glad you didn't
the
do.
worst.
I'm
okay.
glad you didn't do anything inappropriate. That's all.
No more than usual. So yeah, I mean, no surprise here. Started with the Atom because I had to. There was no choice about that whole thing. I like his movement power, and it kind of reminded me of some other powers, like maybe the whole call-in from the Spider-Verse thing that these guys do a little bit, sort of, not really, kind of. And so my thought was setting up the board so that I basically used. There was an object outside of my starting area, and there's an object in front of their starting area, or somewhere that I think that they're going to end up, and send out the Spider-Man, because he is a scientist. This is a scientist team, to do a little bit of damage with his 14 swing. When he does hit, he can then trigger that effect and call in the superior Spider-Man, who can then go to town, because he's a scientist too. Of course he is. So Dr. Otto Octavius inside of Peter Parker's body. So weird. Great story arc, by the way, if you haven't read it. Really, really fun. It tapers off towards the end, but the beginning is really good. So anyway, yeah, these guys worked well together. He gets called in. He does some damage. I love Shape Change and Super Senses together. Fantastic. Then you get this guy just popping in out of nowhere and going pew, 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 and then he just gets out of there, and that's it.
All right, Tom.
And then I stop screen sharing.
All right. Well, over on, I guess the only one who didn't go limited. Obviously, I started with the Atom, and I thought, well, if the Atom's going to be popping up on top of objects, then I want to produce as many objects as possible, so I built a Punisher van team. We have the Punisher van at its full 125 point value along with the weapons dial. We've got a Punisher because it's always nice to have a Punisher along with your Punisher van, but the principal pilot for this is likely going to be the Ultron, Age of Ultron in drone mode. Push him onto click number 2 and then have him start piloting the Punisher van. And just look at that. Think of that 11 attack, pulse wave, and the 3 damage without wit on top of this 11 movement for the Punisher van. And it's with running shot. And he's got some kind of movement attack for the first 7 clicks, massively increased defenses, and just a massive dial at which you're a pulse waving machine. While you're busy doing that, you can also, on your way out, drop off an object or 2, give the Punisher a riot shield so that he's a little bit tougher, or give him a rocket launcher if you just want to send him out on a suicide mission. And by popping tokens out or using the objects that you place at the top of the game, the Atom should have lots of opportunities to pop around the board and get to where he needs to in order to get some good outwitting in. So yeah, pretty straightforward team really, but I kind of like the Punisher van. I mean, it's not the most competitive piece in the world at the moment, but I feel that it hasn't been adequately explored yet, and I think it would be fun to explore it on a team like this one, and that's what I've got to say.
I've played it and I've had a lot of fun with it. I just get a little weepy when I realize that I'm not going to be playing in the major tournament very frequently. Although I like your idea of using the Ultron as his pilot. I might see what I can do with that.
I can't take credit. That's a Patrick Boko original, but yeah. Maybe not piloting the Punisher van specifically, but using that Ultron as the pilot on Click 2 is one of his. But I like the fact the Punisher van is so deeply dialed. I mean, it's like the Quinjet in that respect, but a little bit cheaper and with Invincible up front, so it can even take a big hit off the top without suffering too much by it. It's obviously not as good as the Quinjet by any stretch of the imagination, but it's neat in its own way.
All right, awesome. Excuse me. So now we move into the fan questions.
Fans.
And get your content to the show. If you do want to add your own fan question, at this point, it's probably best to add it directly in the comments below on YouTube. where you're watching this video, I hope. If you can sneak it into Facebook, do it now. And that's facebook.com/marriedwithclicks. See, I didn't do it marriedwithclicks/Facebook this time.
That's an improvement.
Facebook.com/marriedwithclicks.
That'll actually go somewhere.
I'm on a roll today. I did a pretty decent ad read, and I said the Facebook page correctly. I'm feeling a little good today. Feeling good. Not bad for a Monday. I'm going to screw it up pretty soon.
So much energy drink. All right.
All right, so first up, Nathaniel White, one of our fans who we had the pleasure of meeting in Ottawa. So it was pretty fantastic to hang out with him. He says, Frogman, what a wonderful use of 35 points to knock people with senses or shape change, but not charge or combat reflexes off of elevation or away from poisoning you. I love my Frogman, LOL. Yeah, Frogman was part of his... Everybody is talking about Frogman now that it made Kevin Abruz's team. And...
there aren't that many activators in the game right at the moment, and Frogman's the cheapest.
Yeah, 35 points. Right.
Yeah, and Mike Payne corrected me here. Yeah, it was Montreal that we met, Nathaniel. So you're saying Ottawa for all those events, because Carta Magica is the sort that does run these events.
Yeah, they run it in both places.
Yeah. All right.
I was like the Frogman just give you that 2-square bump for your friendly character if you want it for whatever you need it for. Just to get some extra movement in there, or pseudo movement.
All right. Next up, Matt Wallace. What's up, guys? So I realized recently that I haven't heard much about KC, Shazam, or Krang teams. Is it because the current meta has them outclassed? Is it possible they'll be more viable after the next cuts? What are y'all's thoughts? Both, they have a place in the meta, but they're not the best because Jay mentioned already that there was a couple Krang teams in Vegas, and Vegas, even though it was a U.S. Rock Cup, had a little bit more West Coast representation, and I have been hearing stories that there are a lot of Krangs going on down in the West Coast. So that said, sometimes metagame is regional, in the sense that one area will be playing one strategy, and another area will be playing a different strategy, and then up here in Toronto, it's a melting pot of ridiculousness. So on all of that, it's not that those are bad figures, and yes, oh my goodness, are they ever going to be making a lot of noise in the next cuts? Because I think the next cuts go as deep as Nick Fury, which is bonkers.
Well, if they do, then we'll lose Justin Seyfert, right? And so that will make Krang more difficult to use in the way that people have been using him.
Yeah, but oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, you don't know what's coming up, and if it's going to go as far as Nick Fury, then we'll be losing a Quinjet, so that's going to be a big loss. In answer to the question of does it seem like they're on the decline, I think that the Quinjet has really established itself as one of the major forces, and that's a bad match for Krang. It's not a great match for Shazam either. They can deal massive damage to the Quinjet, and it's functionally unchanged from what it previously was. And as soon as they've committed themselves, they have a hard time continuing the fight from there. So I just think that if they're becoming less popular, it might just be that there is a good counter in the game, or at least one that should win more often than not, that is equally common, and that will sort of gradually drive Krang away.
Okay. Mike, do you have anything to add?
Well, yeah, clear counter to Krang is the Quinjet. So, and the Quinjet is the top of the meta, so why would you play it?
Sometimes the case is versus,
Yeah, no, I get that. And, locally you're going to be able to get away with any of this stuff. So if you have like a win a map, you probably will end up seeing maybe 1 or 2 Quinjets because they are less common than Krang, for instance, because Krang is fairly easy to get, being a super rare. Mm-hmm. And so it's a safer thing to play at that point. But when you said KC Shazam teams, I was like, what team?
Well, if there was a flurry of activity there briefly, where KC Shazam's enormous swing at plus DK.
Yeah, his swing is is enormous. He's still good as an option for a switch out if you were to start, for instance, with a team similar to what Tom was running for a little while there with the round table and KC Green Lantern. You could have Shazam as one of your options to have switch in before the game begins, because it's one of the mechanics that the round table has. Just as an option. It is an option. It's not necessarily one that I would go with, but I think you can still count on seeing him every once in a blue moon.
Jay, anything to add?
Well, one-man armies in general are probably going to be more potent the deeper the cuts get, with the focus being more now on a lot of lower point characters like we've seen in X-Men and Spider-Man. So, and he is quite a good one-man army. So, who knows?
All right. So next up, just trying to do this in order of time here. Okay, superfan Chris Hockhouse also questions the use of the term superfan, as he says, "Superfan, eh?" I guess the Canadian's starting to rub off. He watches so much.
Yeah,
Eh? What's going on, eh? If
what are you talking about, huh?
If you guys keep putting out awesome, consistent content, I'll be happy to continue to be a Metal Lab Married with Click Superfan. I'm glad to help by asking questions and foster new, different conversations for each episode of the Metal Lab. It's cool to see WizKids announce another round of WizKids Open / regional events. I'm very glad the events are both after Rock World Cup and still 300 points constructed. If you look at the map of the events, it is really neat to see how far-reaching competitive Heroclix can be. There is, of course, several in the U.S. and the 2 in Canada, but then you have the events in Italy, Chile, Slovakia, etc. I know the Olympics just ended, but this seems like a great showing of diverse nations all playing this game we spent a lot of time and talking and thinking about. My question is, assuming money, time off of work, and language are not an issue, which of these far-out places would you like to visit and play in the WizKids Open? Well, if time isn't an issue, language is an issue, and money isn't an issue, I want to go all of them. Everywhere! I want to go all the places.
That sounds like cheating to me.
Well, but especially across the water. I wouldn't mind playing a couple games in Europe. Check out what the scene is like in there. I mean, oftentimes Europe does set a different precedence to the meta, or we see a lot of different things show up when we have the UK nationals. So I wouldn't mind one of the European countries to give it a try. Tom?
Is there one in Scotland?
Well, that's why I said Europe, because if I was to pick and choose a country, I have to open it up. Give me a second.
I lean towards Italy, but if there's one in Scotland, then that would be my first choice.
I'm checking the UK now. We have what is this? Cheap Thrills in Newport in UK. Chimera Nottingham. Doesn't look like Ireland. I couldn't understand what's going on there. I see no mention of Scotland.
Okay. Well, to be fair, I mean, I like you. I would go anywhere, and I would find it awesome to be overseas because I've never been to Europe, and so there's all kinds of different places that I think would be cool to see. Italy's the first one that jumps out at me, but I'm on a bit of a tomato sauce kick, so that'll happen. Mike, what do you think?
Is there one? I'm not looking at the map right now. Is there one in Brazil?
I'm working on it. Brazil. Chile.
Well, Chile would be interesting. I think anywhere in South America. I'd love to go to another continent. Yeah, like Tom, Scotland is a place close to my heart. My mother's from there, in fact. But going as far as possible, because he said language. If language isn't an issue, then I'd love to go all over the place. It'd be great to go to Thailand and play in Thailand.
My God.
I have this. It's funny you should say. I've got this vision of playing Heroclix, and it's right beside a ring, and 2 guys are in the ring, kicking each other. It'd be awesome.
There is actually one in Australia, which is a slightly more criminal Scotland / Ireland. Maybe I'd go there.
Is this the
so
1800s?
Canada, kind of though. If you think about the way places are settled. If people are willing to leave on ships that take, however long to get there with a very good possibility of dying, I think it's mainly criminals and people with no shot at getting a job in the mainland that end up there. So Canada's right there with them.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I used to live with Australians, so some of their mannerisms will shock you, to say the least. Jay?
I would have said Brazil, because hanging out with Thiago would be fun.
Yeah, Thiago.
I guess. Being that not being the case, I would probably say specifically Europe, specifically the UK, especially because there's a fair amount of competitive British combo characters that could be fun to run there, like Jenny Sparks.
That's true.
So that could be a fun thing to do. And there is that ID card for that British guy who has that cigarette in his mouth. That could be fun.
All right. On that, so thank you, Chris.
Next up, Charles O. Franklin. Out of all the vehicles, which do you use the most? Quinjet.
Well, the answer to that for me is the Avengers Sky Cycle, but I would say that the Quinjet's the best. I just don't have one.
Yeah, Quinjet has only recently edged out the Punisher van, actually. I've played a lot of fun games with the Punisher van.
Oh, yeah.
Quinjet, I have
Charged
played
up
more
bystander
games.
tokens, says Mike.
Yeah, it's catching up. I think
Yeah.
I've made about 4 different charged up tokens in one game.
I got to use them tonight. It was really fun.
Yeah. Jay?
Well, I guess assuming normal constructed, it would of course have to be the Quinjet, because I do not intend to stop playing that team until I have to and forced by gunpoint or by retirement. For limited, it's probably going to be charged up because that is a fun character, and I just finished reading Superior Foes. It was a great read.
All right. Next, Mike Bockley. Excluding purchasing a case or sealed product, what is the most you spent on Heroclix? Looking at the prices of Ace the Bat Hound and KC Red Robin are a bit outrageous, but hopefully the next round of WKO will help drop the price on the secondhand market. You spent 180 on that old man Logan, if I remember correctly? 110. Okay, so it wasn't the old man Logan. I did
your Ion.
Way back, I spent 200 on Ion, but I spent 300 on a Galactus when they were con exclusive, like the first
God.
Galactus. But that's because that's what he was going for. So there's definitely a lot of buyer's remorse on that for sure. But you know me, Tom.
It's not very much. I don't really chase after things. If I don't pull them and if I don't trade for them, then I'm fine not to have them. So I don't really know what the answer would be, but it's probably whatever an expensive like in-store Colossal was. I don't know.
And since Tom uses my collection enough, and since I've known Tom, it would be Ion.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, it's not much. It's less than 100, whatever it is.
Yeah. All right, Mike.
What was the question again?
What's the most you spent on a HeroClix, on HeroClix, not including sealed product? So like on a single figure. Or
non-blind.
Single figure?
Yeah, not blind.
Well, probably the $120 I spent on an entity once. That was a bit much. I think that was a bit much. Yeah. That's probably the high. I think that's the peak for me, and I felt really weird afterwards. Like, what the hell am I doing? I'm an addict. This is crazy. But nothing's really peaked that high or been that important. I mean, I know that the Atom ID card has hit like over $100 in some cases, and I'm just like, I can't do that, man. No way. No way in hell. You can send me one though if you got one. I wouldn't mind.
Jay?
Yeah, my answer would have been the Atom if I hadn't managed to trade for one. But reality-wise, I'm in a very similar boat to Tom. And if I can't trade for something most of the time, I don't go for it. But I guess the one that I remember specifically was probably, a Batmite for 45 fairly recently. Just because I never managed to get one like the character.
All right.
Generally do not like to spend money straight up for singles, but not.
All right. Next up, Jose Rodriguez. Any chance of seeing the Chameleon and the Red Ranger T-Rex teams? I'm sure he's talking about Devil Dinosaur. I'm still working on my third choice for Chameleon. I think I already mentioned it in my video, so spoiler alert. But Sunfire and Jimmy Olsen are my top 2 picks for disguises for the Chameleon right now. I'm still trying to find that happy third place for the figure. I'm sure I'll figure something out soon enough. Tom?
Devil Dinosaur, absolutely.
Devil Dinosaur.
I really like Devil Dinosaur a lot. In fact, today I was practicing with Mike, a new team, using Devil Dinosaur that I've been thinking of ever since I first saw it. So there's a lot of uses for that. It's an incredible piece. It's absolutely a top-tier piece. And Chameleon, much the same. I personally like Mystique and Peggy Carter quite a lot for it. I like Alpha 1 for it as a different sort of an option if you want to try to do some kill box shenanigans with them. But the list goes on. There's a lot of potential options. The only ones that yes, I think we will see pieces play with that piece.
Yeah.
There are a lot of options for them.
They're coming. Just give it a little time. Be patient. In fact, I think if the new cut schedule follows, cuts occurred before Worlds this year, which means come Worlds we could see a brand new meta where a lot of figures are really going to start to shine, especially those Kingdom Come figures, in a world without a certain number of characters whose name rhymes with Schmick-Schmeary.
Schmick-Schmeary.
Mike, what do you think of Devil Dinosaur? And
Really already talking about cuts? Like, oh my god.
Well,
they just happen.
You got to think, because the tournament season
I
doesn't
refuse. I don't have to
you're not
think.
going to have time. Mike, you're still new to this cut thing. Get used to it. It happens every year.
No, it doesn't.
I should mention
article about it.
I do want to add that as far as the community is concerned, the other best option in all of Heroclix for 60 points is still the Ragdoll.
Oh man, you and Ragdoll.
Oh my god.
I'm just not confident enough with it, like for sure thing. Like the Sunfires are for sure. There's Pulse Wave and Running Shot. Jimmy Olsen covers that late dial if Chameleon does happen to get hit because he's Turtle Boy late dial.
Sorry, what was the core question? I really evaded that one entirely.
Do we think we'll see Chameleon and Devil Dinosaur teams?
Yes, we will.
How would Jimmy Olsen even get to those clicks?
Well, because you bring the disguise in on the same click number that the Chameleon's on.
Oh, okay.
And on the late dial of the Chameleon, he's Turtle Boy. So,
okay, that makes sense.
All of a sudden, a giant turtle comes to attack. I just love the imagery that the Chameleon just became a giant turtle. Deal with it.
Yeah, that's a cute kind of trick you can get there to get him as a non-standard character. I wish I had a Double Dinosaur or a Chameleon. I'm still trying on both of them.
You can borrow mine.
No, I know, but I want to own the Double Dinosaur. I have not been able to find any packs that were heavy enough to indicate that they have him yet, so...
He's very obvious. He is very
I know.
obvious.
I'm waiting on finding one of those
In
packs.
this set, he definitely stands out. I thought they were going to be like a light plastic with him, but yeah, he stands out hardcore. They should have threw something else.
I regretted going to Vegas without a Chameleon to get signed.
He's the only one that I actually wanted to get in sketch form, and I did, is Devil Dinosaur, because he's big enough that you can sign him. And I want to get the three guys from Team Failboat to sign him directly instead of just on the card. I know that will count as modding, and I won't be able to use him in a tournament.
Well, you would. Well, you would. If
it doesn't touch the dial, it should be fine.
Yeah. I think that, there's some people who would disagree with some of that, but I can't
think of a single one.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to get it done. It's going to be amazing.
If you want, I'm going to be going to Atlanta. Send it with me.
I will. I will for sure. I know Tim should be there. He was there last year.
Yeah. I think Tim and Derek often travel together.
Well, Derek wasn't there last year. It was just Tim. He was on his own last year. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. And Jose Rodriguez does add, clicks is love, clicks is life. Well, that's why we do
it is. What?
It is why we do this. Next up, Travis Wellums. Outside of the meta, what clicks are you most excited about playing out of the new Superior Foes of Spider-Man? Do you know who really caught me off guard was the Spider-Man? Because I read his card again. I was like, oh my god, he's amazing! And then I used him and triggered the Spider-Verse and brought in another Spider-Man. I can't remember which one I brought in with him. I brought in Superior Spider-Man. It's like, hey, eat my flurry with Prob, and you get -1 defense every time I hit you. Can you imagine how scary that is? And what I just described is only 225 points.
I've got one coming on Wednesday, actually, same character. I'm really looking forward to using him because I see the same potential. The Spider Knight is crazy too. He's really good, and the fact that he gives away ESD like candy is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, what else is good in the set though? There's lots of good things in this set,
Tom,
more than we would think.
What about you? What are you excited to use other than Overdrive?
Stiltman, and more Stiltman.
The stilts that are men.
Okay.
I'm getting a pre-look at the YouTube comments, and they're quite humorous. Jay, what are your thoughts?
As we know, I like characters. I like keywords. I like characters that can go on every possible team. And with that being said, there's absolutely no reason, since he is already in my competitive team, there's no reason why I should ever play a game again without playing the Thug. He is just too good. I love villain keywords. Legion. I'm planning on playing Legion of Doom team in a local tournament this week with Tiago's ATA. I love all those keywords, and it's even funny to just make up scenarios and stories as to why the heck a thug from just off the streets just joined Shield.
There's
So
no ATAs allowed, man.
I'm gonna punch you in the face.
I'm just messing with you. You're allowed to use it.
I already sent you that team. I'm gonna punch you in the face.
I know it's a good team. I
With
like
that being said, the thug is probably gonna be on every team I play forever now. Sorry, everybody else.
Anybody
That's
ever
what
told
Tom
you-
said earlier.
Yeah.
What?
Jay, you're as threatening as a box of kittens. I just needed to insult you while I was reloading the YouTube page to get our comments. And first up, the Rugged Dookie, also known as Aaron Cantu, throws in that Dustin Hall, who you were talking about earlier, owns Maximum Comics. There are 3 locations, including the warehouse, where they have a huge backlog of comics. Check them out online at www.maximumcomics.com. I should mention that all Heroclix are 20% off. You're welcome, Dustin, courtesy of Aaron, for the advertising. Alkino Hines, I hope I said that all correctly. I'm just kind of going on a guess based on what I'm looking at here. Hey guys, what do you think is the most consistent meta team? Well, the Quinjet's got consistent showings lately, along with a lot of the slingshot round table combinations. Tom wasn't the first one to run it. We've seen it, and it's just been it's been a thing that's being consistent out there. Along with, I believe Krang has had enough of a showing to say he's consistent.
I would say the same of Lex Luthor as well, but
Yeah,
I think it's honestly it really feels like it's the Quinjet and then everything else. Like there definitely
really
are other ones, but nothing is more consistent than the Quinjet.
All right.
I wish we saw more variety in the Quinjet build, because it just seems that a lot of what I'm seeing is just Pat's team again.
To be fair, up until this weekend, that was the team that was doing the best. So you know, it needs to start somewhere, right?
Yep.
Everybody's gonna start copying me. No. You're welcome, everybody else.
It's all about you, Jay.
Yeah.
My ego is just skyrocketed. I'm just.
Oh my God! That's all.
All right. And Alkino also adds that we should go to the Barbados to get beat. It's warm out there. I can't do that.
Yeah. I'm still into it though.
I'm on reverse hibernation, man. I'm dying in the summer right now. Oh, hey, we got a local player trolling us from the internet verse. Kevin Newman. I came to do two things. Came to do 2 things: drink some energy drinks and watch Married with Clicks. Looks like I'm almost out of energy drinks. You're welcome. And then he goes on to say, "Just kidding, I've got 24." It's over, Kevin. I know a guy. And then Kevin Newman adds, hey, I just realized after you mentioned the cut to Nick Fury that I spent the last year not being able to play because of my new career, and I bought a lot of clicks that will no longer be modern. Do you guys think that there will become a point that Golden Age will become a viable additional tournament like Magic the Gathering manages to keep their old cards viable? There's
not competitively.
They could ideally do it, but they've got to find a way to focus it, and the game has to be at a certain point where it becomes worth it, right? And unfortunately, right now, it's not worth it. I think if we're going to see a legacy format show up, it's going to be more in line with what Magic the Gathering calls modern. What they call modern is like a non-rotating version of the game that actually starts much later in the game and goes on to everything that's been released, whereas the legacy includes everything before that, which will include $3,000 cards named Black Lotus. Because Magic also introduced this thing called the reserve list, where on the reserve list, nothing on that list gets reprinted. That means that they have to kind of facilitate this, the fact that legacy can only go so far in the game. That said, Heroclix doesn't have that reprinting problem, because the only time we've ever seen direct dial reprints was the Universe set. And I'm not talking like kind of reprints with the 10th anniversary where they were similar but different. I'm talking like hard reprint, and the closest thing was the Universe set, which was a combination of the Explosion and Infinity Challenge set. It's really a non-set. What's that?
Classic. So yeah, but they were like 4-pack things. I mean,
Right.
so I mean, so they've been close kind of twice, and as a result, like they got to look at it and say, are we willing to support it? And if they support it, they've got to put a rules team on top of it and actually start affecting a ban restriction list as well. Because this is another thing that Magic the Gathering does to keep the legacy format viable, is they've had to take a look and say certain cards are banned because certain strategies just ruin the game. Nobody likes, like, there's a whole podcast called Channel Fireball named after the first broken combo. It was Black Lotus Channel Fireball, game over. So it's got to be that thing that's got to get controlled. They've got to get managed. But I think the game needs to get back to a certain growth point in order for them to justify that.
Well,
Tom?
I mean,
Oh, Mike, sorry?
Go ahead.
sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a golden alternate format that the Rock has introduced, like over the last season. Not this season. This is just pure modern. But last season they had a few different formats for it. Like they had 400, like indie as they were calling it, where they actually had the Silver Age stuff that they were doing, and that allowed. The Rock Silver Age was everything from Superman on, wasn't it?
Yes.
It was, yes. But then we also saw
a semi-golden, you know, and I know Kevin specifically, his collection isn't anything before that, so that would probably suit his needs.
But as well, where certain combinations existed that probably shouldn't. That entire metagame was a Scorched Earth metagame.
Oh yeah,
right?
it totally
And
was.
some of those things have to get put under control, maybe put under wraps, or they have to manage a certain list of things that might not be cool in conjunction with things that exist now or things that plan on existing in the future. A legacy format requires management. I guess is where I'm going with this.
Yeah, I hear you, and I agree. The Gamma Bomb in the reintroduction was very interesting at the time.
I'm sure it was shocking for some people. Like, oh my god, that thing!
Oh my god, what is that thing? Yeah, I refuse to play in that format because I just don't have the collection for it.
But I mean, when I saw Morphing Jar and Black Talon, everyone was like, "Wait, what the? Oh my god!" Sorry, Tom. Did you have anything?
I don't really have anything meaningful to add. I don't think that we'll ever see it exist in a format that is really supported by the company. But I also think that a huge portion of the Heroclix that gets played is, being played in Silver and Golden Age tournaments locally and whatnot. There'll always be room, a reason to keep those old pieces on hand. And I love the way the Heroclix is cumulative in that way. New things to come out that allow you to find new and interesting uses for old pieces. So, I don't think that we'll ever see it supported in a formal setting, but I do think that it still absolutely has its place in the casual game, and there's a big casual game to be played.
Yeah. Jay?
If anything, because Wizkid stopped doing Golden World, I highly, highly doubt it's ever going to come back. They specifically stopped doing it, so...
Yeah.
If anything, it'll be The Rock, but nothing official, I don't think.
Yeah. And, I mean, when it comes down to it, The Rock's existence does mean there is a legacy in there. It just does, unfortunately, right now, if you look at the past year where they did introduce this Silver Age format, it was still on a volunteer basis, which meant that there was still only 2 parts to the season, 300 points limited, 300 points modern, but then they had 2 different volunteer formats, the 400-point format and then the 300-point Silver Age format. So, and once again, all of it was based on whether or not the store was willing to do it. And that does have a say in it. Is the store willing to run it, or the organizers willing to run it? Because I know myself, I was a little tentative. I was a little afraid, not so much on the 400 point, but I didn't want to think about it too much. I was kind of comfortable with 300 points as it is. But the idea of the Silver Age format, I looked at it and said, there's some combination with Yu-Gi-Oh that's out there that I'm not looking at, or I know is there, because those figures in themselves were like, this is not how this game interacts with the world. And then when I saw the Morphing Jar with the Magnetos and the Morphing Jars with Gamma Bombs, and it got gross. And again, this stuff has to be fully managed regularly, and I think that's a part of why the Golden Age worlds disappeared. WizKids had to make a certain number of cuts in their staff. And if you don't have a guy who's strictly just there to say,
This is how tournament formats are going to be run. Oh my gosh, we got to look at these combinations in the Golden Age. Are people are talking about this? Do we manage this or do we not manage it? Then they have to take it to their own testing realm and do that. It doesn't sound like they have that kind of facility right now. So,
Jason.
yeah.
One question. What's a
Yeah.
frickin' Yu-Gi-Oh?
I have no idea what a Yu-Gi-Oh is. Are you watching my unboxing?
No, I'm not. No, I remember when, what was it, when it was the first Nationals that we
Oh
went
yeah, it
to.
was the first Nationals I did a
And you were like, what's a
Battle
frickin'
Royale.
Yu-Gi-Oh?
What's a
Yeah.
Yu-Gi-Oh? It's like, well, the joke being, of course, I'm using the compare to Pokemon. And I had a rough idea of what Yu-Gi-Oh was as a whole. I just wanted to know what the name of it was, because Pokemon means something, whereas Yu-Gi-Oh was like, what?
Well, Yu-Gi-Oh is Japanese for something, I think. Isn't it?
I mean, Pokemon is probably not the actual Japanese word for it, but it's shortened to Pocket Monster here in North America. So, what is Yu-Gi-Oh the actual Japanese word? In which case,
Yeah, I think it's Japanese for
whatever.
It's a play on words in Japanese. Yu-Gi-Oh translated means king of games.
Yeah, see. So, what is a Yu-Gi-Oh? It's a king of games.
King of games.
That's all they had to tell me.
Actually, 2 words instead of 3. It's Yugi and O, but they decided to play with it.
I got beat by a little puffy cousin it-looking thing. It was weird. It was a Karibo I know now, but I'm making fun. I've kind of learned a little bit, watched a TV show a little, played with a lot of the figures, whatever, and had the pleasure of meeting some Yu-Gi-Oh diehards who play the game now because Yu-Gi-Oh clicks exist.
Oh, at Warehouse? Yeah,
so
they're special.
I've met some
people.
interesting characters, to say the least.
Some
So I
good
want to
people
thank
out
them
there.
for kind of explaining things to me in spite of myself.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, guys, I want to thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you guys very much, Tom, Mike, and Jay, for joining me today. I also want to thank our sponsors at hcrealms.com. Check out the shop section while you're there. Get some cool Heroclix stuff and put in the coupon code MARRIED for 10% off your purchase. As well, want to thank MajesticCCG.com, who we saw the top 8 in earlier today. Check that out if you want to get a closer look. I know we kind of skimmed over it and we got Jay's story for it, but if you want to check that out, MajesticCCG.com, it is one of the free articles up there. And while you're there, join the Apex Insider. $3 a month gets you access to articles you don't normally get on the free page, which includes articles written by some champions, some known players in the game, and all that. Also, double mention to hcrealms.com. Jay's article on rules updates is coming up tomorrow. Right, Jay?
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. So check that out tomorrow. And yeah, look to it early or later this week for Amber's article discussing, starting in her series of articles discussing the Rock events that are going to be held at the Rock World Cup. Also coming up on October 1st, Eternal Games in Michigan is going to be hosting the last chance qualifier, the last super qualifier prior to the Rock World Cup. And I know a couple guys on this show who are planning on going. We have been cordially invited, as they want Amber to judge, and of course the rest of us want to play. So,
I like Heroclix!
Yeah, we're really looking forward to that. So it's October 1st at Eternal Games in Michigan. We're gonna starting next week. We're gonna be starting regular updates on the details of that as they come to me. So keep your ears and eyes open for that. But without further ado, guys, congrats, Jason. Or Jay, sorry, rather.
Indeed.
I do that every time. Jay is short for Jason. Congrats, Jason.
Very self-congratulatory.
Exactly. Look at his hat.
Yeah.
Congrats, Jason, on picking out that awesome Iron Fist hat.
Yes.
I also do want to congratulate Jay on getting third at the the Rock US Cup. Also want to send out a congratulations to Kevin Afruz of the Critical Clicks podcast. I guess I should do a champ chat with Tom and Kevin coming up soon.
What, really?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Canada Cup winner and the U.S. Cup winner. Not necessarily at the same time, but you guys are kind of deserving. These are national level events, so I'll put you through the ringer on the champ chat, sir.
I just want to have a grudge match with our two respective teams.
I hear a lot of some of the folks on the Critical Clicks Facebook page have mentioned already that myself or some other podcast Jay even should join or co-host one night. I'm just like I actually have to give this another listen because I was falling asleep the first time I listened to it, so I didn't give them a fair chance. I really have to actually listen to it, but because they're not on iTunes, I don't get the regular updates.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I really think it's a tightly run ship. So good job, guys.
I don't know what happened that resulted in me being a big name, but if they want that, then that is a thing I can do.
It's one of our fans and one of the few people who actually enjoys you, Jay.
Right. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. They
You're
both.
vicious today.
No, actually, I'm being nice to you today.
Yeah.
It was,
guys,
it was Smotherman.
yeah.
Yep. We've been
Formerly
getting
known
good
as
feedback from literally both of your fans.
How is your mom, anyway?
All right, guys.
You guys
You
are
got
awesome.
third place in the U.S. Rock Cup. You did a lot better than us in that tournament.
No kidding,
You
eh?
did really good, man. We're really proud of you.
Congrats.
We are.
And we're giving you a ribbing because you're the only one there and you don't take
We're
it so
just
well.
jealous.
The only one who was at both
I
the
am.
U.S. and Canada, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I'm definitely jealous, that's for sure. But when it comes down to it, guys, you want to get up there, get third place in the U.S. Rock Cup, get first place in the U.S. Rock Cup. All it takes is a little bit of practice, because practice
Makes.
Your
Team.
better. Oh, I lost the photo. Never mind. I was gonna put. I had a photo of Jay set up and everything, and it was pretty funny.
No one needs to see
that
that.
is a great picture of Jay,
Pretty
though.
great. And look
That
at
is
that.
good.
That's a
Jay.
good one.
There he
I can't
is.
resist.
So good. I love it.
Okay.
What?
So good.
Is that a meme?
Bird? What is that? You trying to say fired?
Bird, please. You got
Oh,
Bird!
Come on. Oh my God.
I was like, what?
Good night, everybody.
Jason's unsuccessful meme.